Welcome to another Pinche podcast.
Hello, everybody. I know it's been a while, but we're back with another Pinche podcast, and I have a guest today. John, how's it going?
Hey, it's going good, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate you coming on. So, you spent the last weekend in Vegas. How was that? Going forward.
It was great. I mean, we were out there since Wednesday.
Mm,
So, I'm a member of Low Creations Car Club and so we had to meet the transporter on Wednesday
yeah,
and flew out Wednesday, got there Wednesday night, had an early call time to meet the transporter at daybreak on Thursday, lined up, set up, and all day set up on Thursday, a lot of the day on Friday just to button everything up, and the show on Saturday.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
locations that give us, where you guys from, where you're located, so people get an idea of your travel, or having the cars taken out there for the Vegas Super Show.
Yeah, so Low Creations, established 1974, the oldest lowrider car club in San Francisco. So we're all over the Bay Area, but it's the club proper is based out of San Francisco. So we met the transporter in Daly City, very close to the San Francisco airport. And then that dude drove all night to meet us in the morning. So, we had 6 cars on the transporter, and then 3 of our guys independently trailered their own cars. So we were 9 deep, all told, in the show. So it was a good showing.
Yeah, and so, like, because you guys took vehicles out there, and from your perspective as a car club member, as someone showing a car, like exhibitor as they call it, right?
Mhm.
What is that process like for you? I mean, when did you make that decision you're going to take your vehicle out there, and then also tell people what your vehicle is and which car was it there?
Yeah, so my car's the 1973 Buick Riviera. It has a lot of custom modifications on it. It's the blue metallic flake with the navy blue seaweed flames,
Mhm.
with the crushed velvet burgundy interior. That's my car. We made the decision as a club, quite some time ago. Some of the OGs in the club consistently are out there, Donnie, Chuck, and Enrique with the 66 Caprice. They travel a lot, be
Yeah.
it, Arizona, Vegas, LA.
Mhm.
But we kind of, as a club, decided to push the chips all in early, almost a year in the planning.
Mhm.
So it's a lot of logistics. I think that the general public that attends the show, like just a spectator that buys a ticket for entry, and they're enjoying the show. I don't know that people really have the sense of all the heavy lifting that it takes, the blood, sweat, and tears to pull something like that off. I mean, it's a lot of logistics. It's a lot of moving parts in order to have a lineup 9 cars deep,
Mhm.
for folks to enjoy, and
Yeah.
and then it depends on also too the level at which you're showing. I show 10 by 20.
Mhm.
Some of the guys in our club, we had 3 20 by 20 spots.
Yeah.
And so, it just depends on how you want to display your vehicle as well. And then, this, I mean, and people who are spectators know that, with some of the setups with the truss lighting, it's like, man, is Motley Crue playing today? Because
Yeah, exactly.
the display ends up becoming its own production within the greater production of the show.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
a lot of people don't understand that you're also sometimes it ain't the greatest lighting. You might be in like a corner where like there's no lighting, like it or so when you're right, when people do the trusses and they do the lighting, it is potentially to show off their vehicle, the paint, the details, and they also do get graded on their, points for their display as well.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. For sure.
And then so with that, it's like you have to basically the club pitches in, or you raise funds for the transport and everything, which is not cheap. People don't understand this you're showing these vehicles and you're transporting. I mean, it's a whole thing. You're paying for the transport, you're paying for your flight there, your hotel there,
Hotel.
the entry to be in the show, and then food expenses and everything else. And then you know like you said, this is something that people plan in advance. um I don't know how much really they qualify for the Vegas show anymore, but I think the reality behind it is this: it's not just like showing up, right? Vegas is the biggest event, the weekend. So, tell us about, like, what that entails for yourself.
Well, only speak for myself
Mm,
here. So I remember, back in the day, the Vegas Super Show was the only Super Show,
mhm,
right?
mhm.
I mean, now there are many Super Shows.
Right.
Almost every car show is labeled a Super Show because
Yeah.
it's marketing, and I understand the business side of things.
Mm,
But back in the early '90s, the Vegas Super Show was the Super Show.
yes.
And it was the Super Bowl of Super Bowls. It was the Super Bowl, the World Series, and the World Cup and the Olympics all rolled up into one for low riding culture.
Absolutely.
And there was a certain standard. I mean, I'm walking away from this Vegas experience going, my car's a street car. I never built my car with points in mind
Mm,
ever.
yeah.
And being in low creations, my club brothers have put me on with, hey, if you open your door you get more points, if you
Yeah.
open your trunk you get more points, the more you show, the more points you get. And I could never really relate to that.
Mhm.
But everybody is competing in a show. And I'll give you a quick, you were talking about costs. So I had true spokes on my Rivi,
Mhm.
and I misjudged a turn when we were cruising,
Ah,
and I scraped my rear passenger wheel on the curb when I was making a U-turn at Fisherman's Wharf in San Francisco.
yeah.
And so I thought, man, I cannot show my car with curb rash.
Yeah.
So I drove to Los Angeles to buy a set of True Classics and back on the same day, the
Uh,
Friday before the show, in order to be able to have a fresh set of True Classics on the car for
wow.
Vegas. And then the funny thing is I lost the center cap from my house to meet the transport. And when I pulled up, Fernando in our club said, "Hey, are you missing a center cap?" And I thought he was messing with me. And I was like, "No, no, no." And then I jumped out of the car, and sure enough, I had lost the center cap on the freeway. And I was like, "Oh man." So then I put it out on Instagram, "Hey, I need a center cap. Who's holding?"
Yeah.
And then luckily I called True Spoke, and I got somebody on the phone before they were on their way to Vegas.
Oh,
And
wow.
I asked them, I said, "Hey, are you guys going to Vegas?" They said, "Yeah, we'll be there." And I said, "I need a center cap I need a True Classic center cap." And so they came through for me. But,
Nice.
it's all of those things where then I was stressing about, now I'm going to be showing in Vegas missing a center cap,
Yeah.
and it's those little things that do weigh into the equation of stress,
Yeah.
when you're preparing for a show, because there's a million details to prepare when you're getting a car ready.
No, absolutely. And
Yeah.
like I just me as being a photographer and stuff, you do notice certain things. And some people will park their car, a certain direction because maybe the other side has a ding, or that they have, if they're parking in a row, and so on and so forth. So it comes into a lot of factors of, like, well, why they park it like that? And then later on, something happened on the way,
Hmm.
whatever it may be, you have to improvise. And
Yep.
but yeah, that's crazy because, yeah, once again, I think I know so many people that have, like, last minute. It's always last minute, completely doing something different, spending money out of pocket.
Hmm.
It's like one of those things where it's like, if you don't have that emergency fund for your car, I think that's a lot of people don't understand. Low riding, yeah, you got to have, like, an emergency fund when it comes down to your car.
Yeah, I mean, and you can only do what you can do.
Yeah.
And not everybody's got the deepest pockets
Mm,
either. I certainly don't,
mm,
but and so what it comes down to is you just do the best that you can within your means of what you can do, and like I wasn't going to do a show sign, a
yeah.
display, a show board. I wasn't going to do that, and Fernando talked me into it. He said, it would be cool. And we were right down to the wire. So I thought, well, what could I do? So I literally went on Canva and
Mhm.
found like because my car's the conspiracy. So I do
Yeah.
this whole like alien theme
Mm.
and framed letters from like FBI and headquarters. It's
Yeah.
whatever. It's the
Yeah.
whole the whole conspiracy thing, right? Area
Yeah.
51 and all that. And so I found on Canva a template with an alien in the background. It looks like a horror movie poster.
Uh,
And then I just put the name of the car and then the credits and then the year, make, and model of the car, and had a blown up poster made of it, put it in a frame, and there you have it. And
yeah.
then, oh man, now I didn't have time to go get a stand for it. So, I play drums. So I had to improvise.
Mm,
So I took a snare drum stand and I
mhm.
just tilted the basket all the way to the side and leaned the sign up against it. And I have a show sign,
Yeah.
and it kind of adds to the whole idea of the conspiracy theme, so
Mm,
it worked.
mhm.
But again, I mean, that's just how I bring my personality to it. But then you get in there, and I thought I was going to be competing in a traditional 70s lowrider class, which is like
Yeah.
period correct builds.
Mhm.
And they put me in semi custom or mild custom, the mild custom.
Uh,
And I just can't compete on points with those cars, because you see the cars in that category, and it's just like, man, they're up on jack stands with chrome undies, and
yeah.
a 20 by 20 display, and the engine's all engraved and chromed out, and the trunk's all done. And you know it was just an honor to be in the building representing my club, and
Mhm.
just being able to really just appreciate the craftsmanship and the time, energy, the blood, sweat, and tears that people are putting into their builds. It was really a humbling experience,
Absolutely.
so it was a bucket list thing. I mean, I would be surprised if I did it again,
Mhm.
just because, I know I can't compete at that level. And I built my car to be a street car, not
Yeah.
a points show car. So
But your car still shows up on all the Instagrams and stuff like that. I mean, the Riviera, I mean, the body style on it, if
yeah,
it, people, I had a 73, but I never did anything with it. So
yeah,
it sat in my driveway. I bought it and it sat in my driveway for 2 years, and then I ended up just selling it. At the time I don't know, maybe it was around '08 when everything was bad, but I just never went anywhere with it.
yeah.
Does yours have the 455?
Yeah, it's stock motor. Underneath,
Mm,
under the hood, everything's stock.
yeah,
And just the exterior is everything that you see,
yeah,
over a 5-year period, because
yeah.
it was bone stock when I got it. So
Mhm.
what you see is a 5-year build.
Yeah. I liked your interior, the way you did that too. Just the
Thank you, man.
smaller
Thank you.
and the plush. And what is the interior what is the interior that you used?
It's crushed flocking velvet.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, so
So
it's just I found a fabric supplier out of
mm,
LA and just ordered, I overshot what I needed,
mhm,
because eventually I do want to do the trunk. I do want to do under the hood. I do want to do,
mhm,
the trunk lid,
yeah,
just for show, just to be
yeah,
able to just quickly just put those panels up in there,
yeah.
just to give it more of a 70s vibe.
Yeah, definitely. Well,
Mhm.
I have some footage from other past shows. I'll edit them into the video here. If you guys, when they watch it on YouTube, you'll see some of the clips to see what were the car, your vehicle you're talking about. So getting into, being at the show,
Yeah.
you what day did you drive in to set up?
So we set up on Thursday
Mhm.
morning, and we were in there, almost first.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it was so Thursday was a long day.
First
It
to
was
get
a
in, but that means you last to get out, right? Um,
Not necessarily because
oh, okay.
people were getting out of the building. That building cleared pretty quickly.
Really?
Yeah, it was pretty fast, and my display's not too elaborate.
Hmm.
A lot of guys, it was more the 20 by 20 guys that had more work to do.
Hmm.
But I mean, the 10 by 20 crew, we got our stuff done, and then we were able to pitch in where we could with the 20 by 20 setups. We were out of there relatively quickly. And
Oh,
then we had to, so we rolled out of the building, met the transporter, and then it probably took us longer to put the cars back on the transporter than it did to tear down and roll out.
oh wow.
Yeah, but Thursday was an all day affair. I mean, it was a long day. And then we went back on Friday just
Hmm.
to button things up and make sure that, all the last minute checks were in order.
Nice. So the day
Yeah.
of the show, did you get out there and spend your day at the show, walk around, or did you like some? I know some people they won't even walk in there till later. So how did you do on that day?
Yeah, my plan was just to sit in my chair and kick back all day. But I can't because, people are there.
Mm,
It was great to reconnect with folks,
mhm.
and see people and run into people. Hey, let's go grab something to eat. And then so on the way to get something to eat, you run into Michael Tovar, or you
Mm,
run into Spanx from Imperials, or you run into, Nate from Individuals, from San Jose,
yeah.
and it's just, it becomes like that. It's, really the community comes together,
Mm,
and hey, I want you to meet so and so, and oh yeah, I follow you on Instagram, or somebody coming up to the car and giving the car props, and then hey, let me go check out your ride, and then you continue to, to build the network and the relationship. So I tried to kick it as much as I could on Saturday, but it's very difficult to. If I had my preference, I would have just come to take the car out or stay for the awards, but it's hard to stay away
yeah.
because that's when all the action is happening. Plus, the downstairs part of the show, because the main show was on the top floor,
Yes.
and the bottom, which is where a lot of the high class cars were.
Mm.
That was they didn't have access to that building because there was another event happening. So
Oh wow.
that was a later, that setup and roll in was delayed by like a day.
Oh
So
wow.
some people were trying to roll in at 5:30 in the morning on the day of the show you know
Yeah.
um so by the time Saturday rolls around, we've had the being there Thursday and Friday, we had the ability to walk around the
Yeah.
main floor and see everything without anybody in the building, which
Yeah.
is really cool because then you're not fighting the foot traffic and the crowd, as it were.
Yeah.
But Saturday, it was madness because of how packed it was. I mean, this is the biggest that the
Yeah.
show's ever been, and there were a ton of people, ton of cars, 1,000 cars, tons of people.
Mm.
It was wild.
With the and I've talked about this with other promoters, and it's Lowrider Magazine, Las Vegas Super Show, and no matter what, no matter the politics behind who's better promoter and everything like that, that name, Lowrider Magazine, period, will bring in thousands and thousands and thousands of more people. And the people that don't go to everyday shows, they don't go to the shows every weekend. They don't go to shows out of town that often. But when you go to Vegas, you're seeing people from other countries that come out to Vegas just for this event.
Yep.
Everybody from out of state, you know, you're from locally from the San Francisco Bay Area over here. You're gonna get everybody from, just from all over. And like you said, when I go out there, I'm running into photographers from different states. I'm running into people in general, just I met at other shows. You
Hmm.
see people that come up like, oh, I'm from Germany, I'm a fan, or I
Yeah.
follow you on
Yeah.
Instagram. And so I don't think the average person that says, "Oh, I don't know if I would want to go to Vegas," I think you don't realize that everybody tries to go to Vegas at least once in their life, and it's for these shows.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Germany because I don't know if a lot of people know this, but I'm half German. My mom was born in Germany during World War II, and I saw Rollers Only Germany, And
Mm.
I stepped straight to them and I'm like, "You guys are from Germany?" And they were like, "Yeah." I said, "I'm half German." And they were like, "No way."
Yeah.
So I started chopping it up with them and asking them where they were from in Germany,
Yeah.
and telling them where my family still lives over there.
Mm.
And they ended up coming and checking out the Rivi,
Mhm.
and they said, I was joking with them. I said, you could ship it back. You can cash me out and ship it back. And they said we could never have this car in Germany because low riding is illegal. They're very strict on their emissions, and they're
Uh-huh.
very strict on their suspension laws.
Uh-huh.
And they said that they kind of ride under the radar with like stock looking Cadillacs
Mhm.
on spoke wheels, and then they're very very conservative about how they hit their switches
Oh, wow.
to stay out, out from under, scrutiny from police.
Oh,
And they
wow.
said we could never, your car could never roll on the streets of Germany because it's just, it's a flag of, hey, come bust me, you
Yeah.
know. um,
Wow.
but it was fun to meet lowriders from Germany. There were folks from Japan, there were
Mhm.
folks from Brazil, and like you say, it's just that branding and the weight that the Las Vegas Super Show brings,
Mhm.
is amazing in terms of the draw factor.
Yeah. So when you
Mhm.
when you say when it was crowded, what do you think about what time do you think was, like, the most people walked into that place at the same time?
Yeah, I would probably say like early in the afternoon, like,
Mhm.
but like 12, 1.
Yeah.
And then you could tell what was happening on the stage by, you look and it's packed with a lot of foot traffic, and then
Yeah.
there's nothing. And then you look over beyond the vendors, because
Mhm.
of where we were kind of we were in the front corner of the building.
Yeah.
So the stage being in the back of the hall, you know just everybody's over there watching whoever's performing, you
Yeah.
know and I think, Bone Thugs and Harmony headlined this year.
Mm.
So, that also pulls people in certain directions as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, but I would say early in the afternoon is when it was kind of peaking.
Yeah, definitely. I think the morning crowd is usually the people that are there, the car club people.
Yeah.
Uh, and then usually then you get all the walk-ins. And I think sometimes when I've been there in the past, around 3 o'clock, it's just pretty much shoulder to shoulder,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So yeah, it's interesting. Like I said, I didn't get to go this year. I made the choice not to go. I had some other things to take care of, just working
Hmm.
in life, and it's just one of those things where I didn't want to put out myself. I'm like, I'm gonna have to put this money aside. I wanted to take my son, so I'm like, nah. And then I kind of got an idea later on. I'm like, well, everybody's gonna be. A lot of people are there. I'm gonna see if I can get some people on to talk about it and get their experience, from their standpoint. And but for overall, like, was there any cars that you walked around and saw something, anything that stuck out for you? Maybe you didn't never seen before, or just like something that really caught your attention out of nowhere, like you didn't think would.
I mean, it's different cars for different reasons. I mean, Group has this like light pink Lincoln
Hmm.
that's shaved and has a really nice 70s velour interior.
Yeah.
I mean, super classy, not overdone.
Yeah.
Then there was, I hope I get there's a car from Colorado.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if it's Techniques, but it's a 70s car with a
Mm.
billet grill and T-tops. They came and they were looking at the Rivi, and then they told me that that was their car. And then you find out we're in the same class, and it's like, man,
Wow.
we're in the same class on paper, but that's on a whole other level.
Yeah.
you know um Up, that car was amazing. That car was probably my favorite. The 70 Grinch, the green one.
That,
um I mean, that car is bad. I mean, we saw that car on the trailer when we were lined up to roll in, and we were like, that car's bad.
yeah.
And then of course, you know, I mean, I'm gonna be partial. I mean, Pete from Low Creations
Yeah.
just busted out the Lincoln.
Uh-huh.
that Dragon Slayer painted, that's all orange and patterned out,
Yeah.
and they pulled out all the stops on that car. He ended up coming out, taking home a first in luxury. And that car is one of my favorites. And I am, showing my bias
Yeah.
here, but I mean, you just look around and you're like, man, this is just a whole other trip. This is a
Yeah.
whole other aspect of low riding. I mean, because you're not going to see these cars at the local, cars and coffee, or, these cars are getting trailered all over.
Yeah.
And it was cool it was cool to see these cars. I mean, Crypto 9 ended up taking best of,
Yeah.
and I mean, it was interesting to see that car in a full blown display, because the last time I saw that car, it was at Good Guys in Pleasanton in the dead end lowrider room with
Mhm.
no display. It was just
Yeah.
the car, and so, I think that, just people just level up because you
Yeah.
have to. I mean, it's just because that's the heaviest of heavy hitters in one spot, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
and yeah, and I think he's been moving up level by level because he's been competing. He's been wanting that title, you
Yeah.
know. And I saw he had the trust and the lighting, this year,
Yeah.
and I've never seen him, done up like that before. So
Yeah.
yeah,
But
definitely.
I mean, look, I was born in 1973, and so my heart and
Mm,
my brain live in the golden era of low riding of
mm,
77 to 82, and I was playing blackjack after the Lowrider Hall of Fame dinner,
uh-huh.
and this guy sits down next to me, and it happened to be Bugs Ochoa,
Oh
you
wow.
know, famous painter, and introduced himself to me and said, "Hey man, I want to talk to you. I've seen you talking in videos all over the internet."
Yeah.
And so, I probably lost $100 sitting there just, listening to his stories. But,
Yeah.
those kinds of things that happen at the show and
Mm.
within the context of that week, I mean, you can't, there's no trophy for that,
No.
and those are the cool things that happen as part of the entire experience of being in attendance for days on end.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you were saying, so we were go back to like, so when you did the move out, you guys, you went and you put your car straight on the transport. So did you stay the whole weekend or did you head back like right after? Or, what was your experience out there like after the show with low riding the community out there?
Yeah, so I mean, like all of the after hours hop stuff,
Hmm.
that's never been my thing. I've
Mm,
never, like,
mm,
hopping is just not of any interest to me. And
yeah,
there are people that are probably going to watch this and go, well, how dare he say that?" And I mean, it's never interested me at
mm,
all.
yeah,
And there are people that go specifically for that, and
absolutely.
only for that. They don't even mess with the show.
Yeah,
They're for the street activity stuff.
yeah,
And that's cool too. So, my thing, after the show, honestly, after we put the cars on the transport, we Ubered back to the hotel and got a bite to eat and kind of debriefed as a club,
mm,
and called it a night,
yeah,
and then spent Sunday just kind of enjoying the day,
yeah,
because our cars weren't going to be back until Monday,
uh-huh,
and meeting the cars back in the Bay Area on Monday. So, it was finally on my last day able to just kind of relax and
mhm,
recoup a little bit, because, you know, I took vacation days from work, and people are like,
yeah,
"Oh, enjoy your vacation." And my wife said, this is hard work. I said, "I'm working harder here than I would have if I would have been at work, because,
absolutely.
it's all of the, you're in Vegas, but okay, we got a 5 o'clock lobby call because we have to meet the transporter to offload the cars at 6,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And we don't have the luxury of just doing whatever. And especially in a club context, I mean, that's teamwork. And
yeah,
so, you know, so So to answer your question directly, I participated in none of the after hours stuff.
Nice.
What I did appreciate was seeing a lineup of cars, at the hotel at any moment of the day in coming in and out of the hotel. That's
Yeah.
something that you don't see every day, but only in Vegas on Super Show weekend.
No,
And then to
absolutely.
think and then to think about the fact that there are people that unloaded and then we're heading straight to Torres Empire
Yeah.
for Sunday.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot, and
Oh yeah.
that would have overextended me to the point where that I wasn't really prepared for.
Yeah, last year it took me a few days just to recover from that, and I mean the whole trip, period. I've been reaching out to a couple people that I'm also going to have on the podcast, and they're like, "Well, I think by Thursday I should be recovered," and it's a lot. And just as me being a photographer last year, I did the show from the morning to the end. Took me 4 hours. I remember last year I took me 4 hours to video the entire show from every aisle. And then I did all that in my photos and to the end. Then I left. I spent about 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes at my hotel getting situated. And then I ended up to going to the after hop for Frank's and stayed out there till 3 in the morning. So yeah, I
Mhm.
think there's more work to be done, whether you're out there, displaying your car or whatever. Like, hats off to the people that go out there just to go out there and they don't have to care, they don't have to do any of that. The spectators that just go to
Yeah.
spectate. Yeah, they probably get to have the most fun because they don't have they have to be up at 5 or 6 in the morning.
Yeah, and look, let me be very clear about something. I'm not crying about any of it. I
Oh,
mean, it's just what it is. I mean,
yeah.
I've only been to Vegas one other time, and that was not intentional.
Oh, okay.
We were in Vegas for my son's birthday,
Oh, wow.
and we happened to be there, and
Yeah.
our kids were asleep. It was like 11 in the morning, and my wife said, "Let's go to the show." And I was like, no, come on, let's go. And I went, all right, let's go. And it
Mhm.
was cool because we got in there early, walked the show,
Yeah.
checked it out, and then we left and then just, did the rest of our vacation stuff. But
Yeah.
it was impressive, So now doing it as an exhibitor, it's just
Mhm.
a whole other perspective. What I came away with, was the appreciation of all of the logistics. I mean, it takes an army
Mhm.
to pull that off because not only, are is there the show is the show happening, but
Yeah.
then again, our club attended the Hall of Fame dinner on Friday night. And
Mhm.
so that was its own production within a
Yeah.
production. So there are so many different layers and moving parts to pull this off. And I mean, you think about it, I mean, there's somebody that's just in charge of exhibitors. There's, the whole team of people checking people in.
Yeah.
There's the crew that's parking the cars and staging. And they're having to get people in, and they're also having to crack the whip on the support vehicles to get people
Mhm.
out
Yep.
who are trying to set up. I mean, there's a lot going on to when they open those doors for the general public to walk through. I mean, you're talking about a full year plus of planning in order for people to come in and enjoy this major spectacle of our culture.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I think a lot of people don't like with the support vehicles. I see that all the time. And a lot of people don't realize the support vehicle, you got full size trucks, vans, whatever it may be. But what they think, oh, they come in at early in the morning and it's pretty empty. But they don't realize if you don't get out of there fast enough, you're gonna have a hard time getting out of there because once it
Mhm.
fills in behind you, those vans and those trucks are gonna have a very hard time getting out. And I think that's what the whole rush to get them in, get them out, and people just think, "Oh, I got all the time in the world," but then next thing you know, they realize they're boxed in. They're
Right.
they and I think that's where like the vendors and everything else. It's like you really don't get to take your time to set up. You really need to master your craft of dropping everything and moving out and then setting up and everything else. And I think that's the same difference with the vehicles and you see people when they put down their carpet and they're trying to get all that situated, people vacuuming, you name it. It's a big task. And I've done videos in the past when I've done videos when I've caught people doing setups. And honestly, on my YouTube account, some of the most popular videos are of just those people, cleaning the ring, all the details getting done before the show has been some of the most popular YouTube videos I've ever had. And because people don't realize how much hard work it is to get in those shows.
I mean, really, I mean, like I have a background in professional music,
Mhm.
and I follow some Instagram accounts that are of the roadies,
Oh yeah.
like the drum techs.
Mhm.
And it's very similar to that, because I mean, you have to think about the fact that you're dealing with stages, lighting, sound, and then the individual exhibitors also doing their own staging,
Mhm.
lighting, and sound, and it's just, when you add it all up, it's like, man, like collectively
Yeah.
we all pulled off like this major feat. And here we are, into our next work week,
Yeah.
able to talk about it. It's really amazing. I mean, but again, I can't say enough at how impressed, and all my hats off to everybody who showed, because it is a lot. It does take a lot of sacrifice. I mean, you see whole families there, with the kids, polishing the mirrors and setting them up under the cars, and vacuuming and setting up the displays, and to be able to sit back and go, wow, I staged that,
Yeah.
and this is my contribution, and this is my grain of sand on this lowrider beach.
Yeah.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah. No, yeah. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
It's
Hmm.
amazing. And hats off to like you said, everybody that puts those events together and everybody in the car clubs and the family and all the people that are doing the teamwork to getting things done because I see I've seen it before. I go to a lot of shows and that's why I like to get back from people that appreciate that because I don't think that not everybody does. And then they see like all they see is like, oh, these cars or why are they wasting money? But it has a lot, there's a lot more deeper to the cultural, the family,
Hmm.
the camaraderie. I mean, like you said, meeting people, seeing people again, you don't see every time. You see them at certain events, and if you don't go to that event this year, you're not going to see them for another year or just running into people or like you said, meeting people that have been iconic in the growth of low riding, as it is. And but that's why people go to Vegas. It is a convention, it's a car show, but it's a convention of the culture at the same time.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then the Hall of Fame dinner, that was the first time I had been to the Hall of Fame dinner, so it was great to see, the elders get their props and their recognition for their contributions. I mean, you know being in education with this, really, preserving the history
Yeah.
of people, and we stand on the shoulders of people who came before us, and we're only able to do this because of the pioneers that really made the big sacrifices, for this culture, and I don't want that to get lost in the conversation, and acknowledge that. And so it's nice that there's a space for them to be honored and recognized, and memorialized in this Hall of Fame. It's really important.
One thing that just kind of it just popped in my head about talking about the Hall of Fame. I wonder, do you think that there'll ever be like a library dedicated to low riding at the end? I know we have the Lowrider Magazine as general has held this Hall of Fame, and we have other award ceremonies too that are dedicated to people that have been, iconic in the culture. But at one point, where do we put all this history in one place that's going to be permanent? I don't think anybody's ever thought about that. Like, just a dedicated library somewhere where you can store, have all this information besides just one entity holding on to it. I think that's something that culturally maybe something we should think about.
I agree with you. I mean, that would be amazing. I mean, when you think about it,
Uh,
there's, the NFL Hall of Fame,
mhm,
the Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New Jersey.
mhm.
Um, you know, uh, we have different museums for different things.
Yeah.
I think, all that takes is money.
Well, yeah.
really. I mean, and then, the collection of, what would be in it. I mean, what's wonderful is, you see the art, the individuals. There are individual collectors that have
Mm,
amazing archives and artifacts.
mhm.
And I think, as far as books go, I think that, it's just now that there are, the books are starting to trickle out,
Yeah.
but the reality is that there's still a lot of history that needs to be documented,
Mhm.
and I think hopefully we'll get there, but the work still needs to be done. There are a lot of people that are writing on it,
Mhm.
but some of it is like really heavy academic writing.
Yeah.
The average person isn't really going to be able to pick that up and necessarily understand it because it's written in like this heavy technical academic language,
Yeah.
and it's a lot of like theory,
Yeah.
I'm interested in capturing
Mhm.
the oral history and the personal stories. I think podcasts like this will help to grow that space.
Yeah.
But as far as like, having the archives from, X car club, well,
Mm.
you would have to digitize all that,
Yeah.
or, it would be a hard thing, to get somebody to just give that up, you
Yeah.
know. I know that UC Berkeley, for example,
Mm.
in their ethnic studies library has every issue of Lowrider magazine ever published.
Wow.
And Joe Ray tripped out when I told him that, you
Wow.
know. Marcos Gaitan just raffled his entire collection off, and Cindy Valadez, whose father built the Gypsy Rose,
Mm.
ended up winning it. And Marcos told me, he said, it's a trip that she won it because she's like
Yeah.
considered to be lowrider royalty of sorts.
Mhm.
But he also was also celebrating the fact that somebody who would really appreciate that collection
Yeah.
wound up with it, and I mean that in and of itself, the complete collection of Lowrider magazine is an amazing archive in and of itself because there's so much history documented. But most importantly too, like the evolution of low riding too, of where it began versus where it was at the end of the magazine.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah.
I think, and then speaking of where I began, I think that's one of the greatest debates because nobody can ever sit there and agree that they don't even agree to disagree. Maybe these things that happen at the same time. And,
Yeah.
you know, I, I, I've heard many times some people will argue it's the low riding started, it's black culture, it's Chicano culture. And my thing nowadays is it's low riding culture, period.
Yeah.
It don't even matter. Low riding, you're not going to see a more diverse group of people with custom cars. You're not. Low
Yeah.
riding is it for me because I've seen it, and I know things have changed, but I've seen in the past where they like, oh, you can't have the little rims. They don't want that, at their show or this, that, and this
Yeah.
and whatever.
Yeah.
But it really comes down to when you're a lowrider, you're a lowrider, and it's the culture that matters over everything. But the great debate, and I think there was some stuff on TikTok just recently, and it's like, oh, I invented this, or I invented the word or the term, and everybody will say where it came from, or it was the Mexican American culture that did it. It was African American culture. It's like you go back to, well, everybody associates zoot suits with the Chicano culture, the back in the day, but it wasn't Chicano culture that created the zoot suits. It was the what do you call it? The band, the blues and stuff like that was the zoot suit.
Yeah.
So
Well, it comes from jazz culture, but you know what's fun? What's funny is that, I mean, my thing has always been about looking at how low riding has spread throughout the
mhm,
world.
yeah,
Because I let other people have that fight. And
yeah,
there are a lot of people that want that fight,
yeah,
because everybody wants to plant their flag and say,
yeah,
we started this. Okay, fine. You all fight about it. My thing has always been, and I've said this a million times, the milk is spilled. I'm more interested in where is that milk running,
yeah,
and so I was always interested in, and it goes back to like, in the early 90s, like 91, 92, when
yeah,
I opened up Lowrider Magazine and saw lowriding in Japan
yeah,
then, and I went, what?
Yep.
It blew my mind because it was now we have it in print that this has transcended
Yes.
our very local understanding of what this is in our town or our neighborhood or our area.
Yes.
And then you go, and then I don't know if you've had the opportunity to go to Japan, but it blew my mind when I was there and just seeing like the perfection of the builds and how they're doing it and the love that they have for it. And then I had the opportunity to go spend some time in Brazil as well. And it was really, it took me back that that these other cultures
Yeah.
where low riding is not quote unquote indigenous to
Mhm.
their culture, have fully embraced it
Yes.
and live the low riding lifestyle. It's not just something to do for one summer. They're all in with it,
Oh yeah.
it was funny. um I had the opportunity years ago to interview lowriders from Saudi Arabia,
Okay.
and they turned we did a WhatsApp video call, and they turned the camera around, and there were probably 20 people sitting in the room that were listening to, and we were working through a translator.
Mhm.
And the guy said, before I started asking my questions, he
Yeah.
said, before you ask one question, tell us about the Impala. And I said, well, which one? And they said, the one with all the flowers on it.
Oh
So
yeah.
they
Oh,
want to know about the Gypsy Rose. So
yeah.
before they let me ask them one question, they wanted to hear like the
Yeah.
backstory of Gypsy Rose. And it's just, I think that what that proves, and then I'll bring it back to our discussion with Vegas,
Mhm.
because it kind of brings it full circle.
Yeah.
Is you know as outward as the trajectories have been, the lines and the different corners of the world where
Yeah.
lowriding has ended up, right? That
Mhm.
Vegas is still like this homecoming
Yes.
back to the United States, to the biggest low riding event of the year.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see folks that make that pilgrimage
Yep.
to the super show to enjoy the culture here at the most spectacular level.
Definitely. I think so there was somebody from the Middle East. He had a wagon, and he's probably when Instagram he was when Instagram first kind of came out, and I ended up on Instagram. One of the first lowrider like out of the country. I remember there was a guy out there, and he has a wagon, and it's lowrided out in hydraulics, and I think
Hmm.
and I'm sure he's still on my Instagram, but I haven't seen any kind of posts in a long time. But that's just no Australia,
Hmm.
Germany, um,
New Zealand,
New Zealand,
Sweden.
Amsterdam, of course, Canada, they're right here, and the amount of people that I ran into, like I said, Vegas and just in general, Chicano Park's another one where a lot of people come out
Yeah.
and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that the reach is out there, and of course, I think almost everybody knows Japan, but they don't know about all the other places where it's influenced. When I used to do a lot of lives prior to the Ukraine war, prior to that, I used to get a lot of people from Russia
Hmm.
talk to me live. So like I'd be on my live on YouTube, and then they'd be, chatting it up with me and chatting back. And it was, they were trying to, translate stuff and everything else, but they're just big fans of lowriding, whether they have it there or not.
And not for not,
Mhm.
in Russia, they're building some really, really cool 70s style
Yeah.
lowriders, and it's just it's also fun to see like how people are doing it in different areas. I mean, even in Japan, like how they're doing it in Nagoya is different than how they do it in Tokyo.
Mhm.
Tokyo's more a 90s style low riding, and Nagoya's, very, deep in the 70s style,
Mhm.
and so even there, I mean, just like, New Mexico cars have their own style,
Yes.
Even even in the Bay Area, even in California,
Yeah.
in the different regions, you'll see different, oh, we run these kind of tires on our bomb,
Yeah.
you know, and oh, that's a very, that's their thing,
Yeah.
it's really cool. What it does is it makes low riding and how we express ourselves in low riding so hyper personal, and it gets
Mhm.
very micro, it gets very granular,
Yes.
it's very nuanced, and I love that about it.
Yo, absolutely. I think that,
Yeah.
yeah, and people that have been around it enough, you can almost look at a car and go, "That's a Bay Area car." You
Yeah.
know, that's a San Diego car.
Yep.
Stuff like that, and you can almost depict it, like, especially if, like, so say someone buys a car that was built out in LA and they bring it up here, you can
Hmm.
almost right away tell. You can right
Yep.
away, and it's not so clear cut to the average person. But once
Hmm.
again, we have, just like you tell somebody's not from the neighborhood, right? I mean, pretty much the area you live in and stuff. We
Hmm.
have that that intuition when it comes down to these cars.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, it's cool. Vegas, my main takeaways from Vegas
Mm.
are, you know, wow, that was really tiring.
Yeah.
Um, 100% worth it. I
Mm.
no regrets at all. I mean, coming down to the wire, getting the car ready, I wasn't sure I was gonna make it because, it was coming out of the painter from on, some clear touch-ups,
Yeah.
the week before, having to go to LA and back to get my new wheels. I was really racing the clock.
Yeah.
And then there were things that I wanted to do that didn't get done just because I ran out of time. But, you know, um, you know, Donnie Alonso, who is our vice president in low creation, said, "Man, you're in the building." And that in and of itself is a
Yeah.
huge feat. You be proud of yourself that you made
Yep.
it to the show.
Mm.
Um, and I am. I'm really honored to be in such great company, with a community of builders that, are just, I mean, there's world class vehicles in that show, and it was very humbling. But again, I don't know that I'll do it again
Yeah.
because it's a lot.
Oh, yeah, it is. It's a lot. And
Yeah.
like I said, for and in general, when you have the vehicle, it's time consuming.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's no rest for this low riding, you know what I mean? That's why you get the people that like to show and the people like to cruise, because there's a whole different, thing. And I think, I mean, I love the shows because of what they bring, and how and bring, the community out there. But the cruising, I grew up with the cruising more than anything. And for many years, I think I was out, San Jose, born and raised. So I was out here at the cruising King Story and downtown and everything like that. And it wasn't until years later that I started going to the shows. I mean, way before my time with as a photographer and stuff. So,
Hmm.
I totally get that, because some people will do a show and go, "Yeah, no, I'd just rather be on the street," or at least the picnics and the barbecues and stuff like that. So, you know,
That's always been my preference. I mean, when
mm,
I built the car through my 5-year-old eyes, the way they looked when I was a kid in the late 70s.
yeah,
And that's what I wanted to build, was a period correct 70s lowrider.
mm,
I was never ever thinking about a judging scorecard. The first show that I entered the car in was at the Cow Palace, and people couldn't believe that I didn't place. And it's because I didn't have a display.
yeah,
I didn't open anything. I just laid the car out, wiped it down, and I'm showing the car. Show
yeah,
was over. I raised the car up and I drove it out. And I had no idea how it worked. I was just there to participate.
yeah,
But the show is always is all, or the street rather,
yeah,
is where, I would much prefer to cruise or to post up and watch people cruise,
mm,
because there's nothing like it. I mean, that's
yeah,
really those are my origins in the culture, and that's where, for me, that's the most fun.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your time. I really appreciate you coming on, And I hope this gives some insight to Vegas for the people that are still haven't attended a Vegas show. And hopefully there's always next year. Let's just hope that the shows and the economy doesn't mess up everything. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's an experience, and we made it happen.
Absolutely. I would highly recommend it. I mean, it's an experience like no other, and if you love low riding and you love seeing wonderful cars and beautiful builds, and the spirit of community, I highly recommend that folks attend.
Definitely. And once again, thank you for coming on. Thank you for your
Thank
time,
you.
your input.
Appreciate it.
I really do appreciate it. And everybody out there, check it out. You follow them on Instagram. It is posted here. It will be posted under the YouTube. And if you're just listening to the podcast, the information will be in the info. So thank you once again for your time, John. And we're out of here.
Right on.
Pinches Lowriders.